The message arrived on a Tuesday morning. It came through the quantum relay station orbiting Mars, and within minutes, every government on Earth had received a copy. The words were translated into every human language, but the meaning was clear in all of them. It was not an invitation. It was an order. To the emerging species designated human, the message began. The Galactic Concord, representing 847 civilizations across 4 spiral arms, hereby issues a compliance summons. Your species has been observed for the past 50 years and has been classified as a premature civilization requiring guidance. You are ordered to send representatives to the Nexus for integration protocols. Failure to comply will result in corrective measures. President Chen Wei read the message 3 times. She had known about the Concord for years. Every world leader had. The aliens had not been subtle in their observation of Earth. Their ships had been spotted countless times, always watching, always recording, but humanity had pretended not to notice. They had their reasons. Integration protocols, said Defense Minister Okafor, his voice heavy with disgust. We know what that means. They did know. Humanity had intercepted Concord communications for decades. They had learned what happened to species that were integrated. Their governments were dissolved. Their militaries were dismantled. Their cultures were slowly erased and replaced with Concord-approved alternatives. They became subjects, not citizens. Pets, not partners. They expect us to roll over, said Admiral Yuki Tanaka. She stood by the window of the United Earth Council chamber, looking up at the sky. She was 52 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much. They expect us to be afraid. Aren't we? Asked the French representative. Tanaka turned to face the room. No, she said simply. We are not. The council debated for 6 hours. Some argued for diplomacy. Send ambassadors, they said. Negotiate. Buy time. Others wanted to ignore the summons entirely and hope the Concord would lose interest. But a small group, led by Tanaka, proposed something different. They see us as primitives, Tanaka explained. They have watched us for 50 years and decided we are children who need parents. If we send diplomats in nice suits with polite words, we will confirm their beliefs. They will pat us on the head and chain us up. What do you suggest? President Chen asked. We show them what we really are. The vote was close. 47 in favor, 43 against. The motion passed. Humanity would respond to the Concord summons. But they would not send diplomats. They would send the Prometheus. The UES Prometheus was humanity's greatest secret. For 30 years, Earth's best scientists and engineers had worked on the project. They had reverse-engineered technology from crashed alien probes. They had made breakthroughs in physics that the Concord thought impossible for a species so young. They had built a ship that could challenge gods. From the outside, the Prometheus looked almost ordinary. It was 2 kilometers long, painted in the dark gray of Earth's military fleet. But its appearance was a lie. Inside, it contained weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand stars. It had engines that bent space itself and sensors that could see across galaxies. And it had a crew of 3,000 humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Admiral Tanaka walked through the ship's corridors on launch day. The crew saluted as she passed, but she saw the fear in their eyes. They knew what they were about to do. They were going to fly into the heart of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They were going to demand respect from beings who saw them as insects. Admiral, said Commander Park, her first officer, falling into step beside her. The crew is ready, but I have to ask, do you really think this will work? Tanaka did not answer immediately. She stopped at a viewport and looked out at Earth below them. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. Home, 7 billion people down there, going about their lives, trusting that she would keep them safe. The Concord has never met a species like us, she finally said. They have conquered thousands of worlds. They have crushed every civilization that stood against them. They are used to fear. They are used to submission. She turned to face Park. We are going to give them something new. We are going to give them doubt. The Prometheus launched at midnight, Earth time. It accelerated away from the planet at speeds that should have been impossible, leaving a trail of compressed space behind it. Within hours, it had passed Mars. Within days, it had left the solar system entirely. The journey to the Nexus would take 2 weeks. Tanaka spent most of that time in her quarters, reviewing intelligence reports on the Concorde. She studied their military tactics. She memorized the names of their leaders. She learned their weaknesses. The Concorde was not a single empire. It was an alliance of hundreds of species, held together by force and tradition. At its head sat the High Arbiter, a being named Zoloth, who had ruled for 4,000 years. His species, the Valorian, were the founders of the Concorde. They believed they had a divine right to guide lesser species toward enlightenment. Enlightenment, Tanaka muttered, reading a report on the fate of a species called the Morthaki. They had resisted integration 300 years ago. Now they existed only in museums, their culture preserved as a curiosity for tourists. On the 10th day of the journey, the Prometheus detected the Concorde's greeting fleet. 200 ships, Admiral, reported the tactical officer. Various classes. They are moving to intercept. Tanaka studied the display. The ships were impressive by Concorde standards. Powerful weapons, strong shields. Any one of them could have destroyed Earth's conventional fleet. Together, they could have conquered a dozen worlds, but they had never faced the Prometheus. Open a channel, Tanaka ordered. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. It was Valorian, tall and thin, with silver skin and 4 eyes that glittered with contempt. Human vessel, it said. You will halt immediately and submit to inspection. Your weapons will be deactivated. Your crew will be questioned. Any resistance will be met with force. Tanaka let the silence stretch for a long moment. She wanted them to see her face. She wanted them to see that she was not afraid. This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the United Earth ship Prometheus, she said calmly. We are here in response to your summons. You may escort us to the Nexus, or you may move aside. Those are your options. The Valorian commander's 4 eyes widened. You dare to give orders? You are primitives. You are nothing. You will comply, or you will be destroyed. Tanaka smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You have 60 seconds to make your decision. The channel closed. On the tactical display, Tanaka watched the Concorde fleet arrange itself into an attack formation. They were going to try to stop her. Good. She wanted them to try. All hands, she announced over the ship's intercom. Prepare for demonstration. The Prometheus did not slow down. The Concorde fleet opened fire, hundreds of weapons lighting up space with enough energy to melt mountains. The shots hit nothing. The Prometheus was no longer where it had been. The alien ships scrambled to find their target. Their sensors showed the human ship in 3 different locations at once. Impossible. Their computers told them it had to be a malfunction. Their commanders told them to keep firing. The Prometheus danced through the fleet like a ghost. It slipped between ships, passing so close that crews could see it through their viewports. It phased through containment fields as if they did not exist. It moved in ways that broke the laws of physics as the Concorde understood them, and it did not fire a single shot. When it was over, the Prometheus emerged on the other side of the fleet, completely undamaged. Behind it, the Concorde ships drifted in disarray, their formations broken, their commanders shouting at each other in confusion. Send them a message, Tanaka ordered. Tell them we appreciate the escort. The Prometheus continued toward the Nexus. Behind it, 200 alien warships could only watch it go. They had been trained to fight. They had been trained to intimidate. They had never been trained for this. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Concorde's fleet had been humiliated, and they had not even been able to touch the thing that humiliated them. Word spread quickly. By the time the Prometheus reached the Nexus, every being in the Concorde knew what had happened. A human ship had walked through their 3rd largest fleet like it was nothing. A primitive species had made fools of their warriors. On the Nexus, a counselor named Vethrai watched the reports with growing amazement. She was old, even by the standards of her long-lived species. She remembered what it was like before her people were integrated. She remembered freedom, and as she watched the human ship approach, she felt something she had not felt in 500 years. Hope. The Prometheus took up position in orbit around the assembly station. It chose its location carefully. From where it sat, it could strike the station's reactor core in less than 3 seconds. Every military analyst in the Concorde recognized what that meant. The humans had not come to negotiate. They had not come to submit. They had come to make a statement, and the galaxy was listening. The Nexus was the heart of the Galactic Concorde. It surrounded a dying star like a shell. a structure so vast that it made planets look like pebbles. Trillions of beings lived within its countless stations and habitats. Thousands of ships moved through its space every hour, carrying goods and passengers between the Alliance's countless worlds. Counselor Vethrai had lived in the Nexus for 300 years. She had seen species rise and fall. She had watched civilizations be absorbed into the Concord, their identities erased, their people turned into obedient subjects. She had learned to accept it. She had learned to forget what freedom tasted like. But now, staring at the human ship on her screen, she remembered. "It is just sitting there," said her aide, a young member of her species who had never known anything but conquered rule. "Why does it not move? Why does it not speak?" "Because it does not need to," Vethrai replied. "It has already said everything it needs to say." The Prometheus hung in space like a silent threat. It had positioned itself perfectly, in a spot where it could strike the assembly station's core or escape into deep space with equal ease. The Concord's defense fleet surrounded it. Hundreds of ships with weapons armed and ready, but none of them dared to fire. They had seen what happened to the greeting fleet. They had no desire to suffer the same humiliation. In the assembly station, the leaders of the Concord gathered in emergency session. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from all 847 member species. Today, it was filled with fear and confusion. High Arbiter Zoloth sat on his throne above the assembly. He was ancient, even by Valorian standards. His silver skin darkened with age, his 4 eyes clouded but still sharp. He had ruled the Concord for 4,000 years. He had overseen the integration of 600 species. He had crushed rebellions and destroyed civilizations that dared to challenge him. He was not accustomed to being challenged. "Explain to me," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "how a single ship from a primitive world defeated 200 of our warships." The military commanders shifted uncomfortably. None of them wanted to answer. "The ship possesses technology we do not understand," one finally admitted. "It appears to manipulate space itself. Our weapons could not track it. Our shields could not stop it. It moved as if our fleet did not exist. And you let it escape?" Zoloth's voice was cold. "We did not let it do anything, High Arbiter. It simply left. We could not prevent it." Silence fell over the chamber. For 10,000 years, the Conquered had been the supreme power in the galaxy. No species had successfully defied them. No ship had ever humiliated their fleet. The order of things had seemed permanent, unshakable. Until now. "Summon the human commander," Zoloth ordered. "I would speak with this creature who dares to threaten us." The message was sent to the Prometheus. For 6 hours, there was no response. The Concord waited, their pride wounded by every passing minute. Finally, when the assembly had nearly given up hope of an answer, a shuttle detached from the human ship. Admiral Tanaka arrived at the assembly station with 12 guards. They wore simple black uniforms, carried no visible weapons, and walked with the calm confidence of people who knew exactly how dangerous they were. The Concord security forces watched them with nervous eyes. Vethrai was waiting in the gallery when the humans entered the chamber. She had pulled every favor she had to get a seat in the room. She wanted to see this with her own eyes. The human commander was smaller than Vethrai had expected. She was short by human standards, with dark hair streaked with gray and a face lined by years of command. But there was something in her eyes that made Vethrai's breath catch. She had seen that look before. Long ago, before her people were integrated, she had seen warriors with that same expression. It was the look of someone who had already accepted death, and therefore could not be frightened by it. "You are the one they call Tanaka," Zoloth said, looking down at her from his throne. "The commander of the human ship. I am Admiral Yuki Tanaka, representing the United Earth Council," she replied. Her voice was calm, steady. "We are here in response to your summons. You were ordered to send diplomats," Zoloth said. "You were ordered to submit to integration protocols. Instead, you send a warship. You attack our fleet. You threaten our capital. Explain yourself." Tanaka looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of the assembled representatives. Many of them looked away. Some met her gaze with curiosity. A few, Vethrai noticed, looked at her with something like hunger. "We did not attack your fleet," Tanaka said finally. "If we had attacked your fleet, it would no longer exist. We simply declined to be stopped by it." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Zoloth's eyes narrowed. You speak boldly for a representative of a primitive world, and you speak condescendingly for someone whose forces just failed to stop a single ship, Tanaka replied. Perhaps we should both reconsider our assumptions. The chamber went silent. No one had spoken to the High Arbiter like that in centuries. Zoloth leaned forward on his throne. You do not understand your position, human. The Concord has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have integrated thousands of species. Those who cooperated prospered. Those who resisted were eliminated. You have one ship. We have millions. Your defiance is meaningless. Is it? Tanaka reached into her uniform and pulled out a small device. Several guards moved toward her, but she held up her hand. This is a communicator. I am going to show you something. You may want to pay attention. She pressed a button. Throughout the chamber, screens flickered to life, displaying a star map of Concord space. 15 points of light began to glow red. These are military installations, Tanaka explained. Shipyards, weapons, factories, command centers. My ship is currently targeting all of them simultaneously. Our weapons can reach them from here. Your defenses cannot stop us. The assembly erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other in a dozen languages. Military commanders screamed into communicators. Zoloth rose from his throne, his ancient face twisted with rage. This is an act of war. No, Tanaka said calmly. This is a demonstration. If it were an act of war, those installations would already be debris. I am simply showing you what we are capable of. She let them absorb this for a moment before continuing. Earth has been watching the Concord for 50 years. We have seen how you operate. We have seen what happens to species that are integrated. Their governments dissolved. Their militaries disbanded. Their cultures erased. We have seen the Morthaki, the Kellans, the Vesh. We know what you do to those who submit to you. She paused, her eyes sweeping the chamber. We did not come here to submit. Vethrai felt her heart pounding. The human was saying things that no one had dared to say for millennia. She was naming species that the Concord pretended had never existed. Then why did you come? Zoloth demanded. We came to make you an offer. Tanaka replied. Full membership in the Concord for humanity, with complete autonomy. No integration protocols. No guardianship. No dismantling of our military or government. In exchange, we offer alliance and cooperation. That is not how the Concord operates, Zoloth said. All species must be guided. All species must be protected from themselves. This is for your own good. We do not require your guidance. We do not require your protection. Tanaka's voice hardened. And we are not asking for permission. We are telling you how this will be. She raised the communicator again. But we are not finished. Our second demand is that the integration protocols be abolished. Not just for humanity, for everyone. Every species that has been integrated will be given the choice to reclaim their sovereignty. The Concord will become a true alliance of equals, not an empire of subjects. The chamber exploded again. This time, Vethrai heard something new in the noise. Not just fear and anger. Hope. Dozens of representatives from integrated species were looking at the human with desperate, hungry eyes. Zoloth's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. You are insane. You are one species, one ship. You cannot dictate terms to an empire of 800 worlds. Tanaka smiled. It was the same cold smile she had shown the greeting fleet. We are not dictating terms. We are offering you a choice. Accept our proposal, and the Concord survives. Refuse it, and we will show the galaxy that you can be defied. We will show every oppressed species that you are not gods. We will break the myth of your invincibility. She turned to address the entire assembly. You have 3 days to decide. I suggest you use them wisely. Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked out of the chamber. Her guards followed, their footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Vethrai watched her go, her mind racing. In 300 years, she had never seen anyone stand up to the Arbiter like that. In 10,000 years, no one had challenged the Concord's authority so directly. The humans had not sent diplomats. They had sent a warrior, and the warrior had just told an empire to change or die. As the assembly dissolved into frantic debate, Vethrai made a decision. She did not know if the humans would succeed. She did not know if they would even survive the next 3 days. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was going to help them, whatever it cost her. The 3 days passed slowly. Throughout the Nexus, the Concord's leadership argued and debated. Some wanted to accept the human terms. Others wanted to destroy the Prometheus and teach Earth a lesson. Most simply did not know what to do. High Arbiter Zoloth spent those 3 days in deep consultation with his military advisors. They studied every piece of data they had on the human ship. They ran simulations. They calculated odds. And with each passing hour, their confidence shrank. The ship's technology is beyond our understanding, the chief weapons analyst reported. We have identified at least 7 systems that should not exist. Their engines bend space in ways our best scientists cannot explain. Their weapons operate on principles we have never encountered. Their shields seem to absorb energy rather than deflect it. Can we defeat them? Zoloth asked. The analyst hesitated. With our entire fleet concentrated against their single ship, we estimate a 60% chance of victory. But our losses would be catastrophic, and we have no guarantee that Earth does not have more ships like this one. Find out, Zoloth ordered. Send scouts to their system. I want to know exactly what we are dealing with. The scouts were sent. None of them returned. While the Concord's leaders worried, something else was happening in the shadows. Vethrai had begun reaching out to her contacts among the integrated species. Quietly, carefully, she spread the word. The humans were offering freedom. The humans were offering a chance to reclaim what had been lost. Not everyone listened. Many had been part of the Concord for so long that they could not imagine any other way of life. But some did listen. Some remembered. On the morning of the 3rd day, Vethrai received a message from an encrypted channel. It contained a single set of coordinates and a time. Nothing else. She went alone, telling no one where she was going. The coordinates led to a small cargo bay in one of the Nexus's industrial sectors. When she arrived, she found Admiral Tanaka waiting for her. You are either very brave or very foolish, counselor, Tanaka said. Coming to meet an enemy alone. I do not consider you an enemy, Vethrai replied. And I have lived long enough to know the difference between bravery and necessity. Tanaka studied her for a long moment. You were there when I addressed the assembly. I saw your face. You wanted to cheer. My people were integrated 800 years ago, Vethrai said. I was born into servitude. I have spent my entire life learning to accept it, but I never forgot that we were once free. I never forgot what the Concord took from us. And now you want it back. I want it back for everyone. Vethrai stepped closer. The assembly is going to reject your terms. The Arbiter would rather destroy the Concord than share power. He is already preparing an attack. Tanaka nodded. We expected as much. You expected it? Vethrai felt a chill run down her spine. Then why did you give them 3 days? Why did you not simply demonstrate your power and force them to comply? Because we did not come here to conquer, Tanaka said. We came here to offer a choice. If we forced them to accept our terms, we would be no better than they are. The Concord must choose to change. Otherwise, the change will not last. Vethrai shook her head in amazement. You are gambling the survival of your species on the hope that an empire will choose to reform itself. That is either wisdom or madness. Maybe both. Tanaka smiled slightly. But we are not entirely without plans. We have been preparing for this moment for 30 years. We have assets throughout the Concord. We have been watching and waiting. What kind of assets? You will see. When the time comes. The deadline arrived at midnight. The assembly reconvened, and Tanaka returned to face their judgment. This time, the chamber was even more crowded. Word had spread throughout the Nexus about the human ultimatum. Billions of beings were watching the broadcast. High Arbiter Zoloth rose from his throne. He had dressed in his full ceremonial robes, ancient garments that had been worn by arbiters for 10,000 years. He wanted to look like history. He wanted to remind everyone of the Concord's power and permanence. Admiral Tanaka, he began, the Concord has considered your demands. We have debated them extensively, and we have reached a decision. Tanaka stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by her guards. Her face showed nothing. Your demands are rejected, Zoloth continued. The integration protocols are the foundation of galactic civilization. They have brought peace and prosperity to countless species. They will not be abolished because a single primitive world objects to them. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some sounded relieved. Others sounded disappointed. Furthermore, Zoloth said, his voice rising, your species has demonstrated that it is too dangerous to be allowed to develop freely. Your technology is a threat to galactic stability. Your aggression is a threat to peace. Therefore, the Concord has voted to classify humanity as an existential threat. He paused for effect. Your ship will be destroyed. Your world will be integrated by force, and your people will learn the same lesson that every other species has learned. The Concord is eternal. The Concord is absolute. Resistance is futile. He raised his hand, and the chamber's screens flickered to life. They showed the Concord fleet, thousands of ships converging on the Prometheus from every direction. You have one chance to surrender, Zoloth said. One chance to spare your crew. Take it. Tanaka looked at the screens. She looked at the Arbiter, and then she laughed. It was not a loud laugh, but in the silent chamber, it carried. Every being in the room heard it. Every viewer watching the broadcast heard it. The laugh of a woman who was not afraid. You still do not understand, she said. You think this is about the Prometheus. You think this is about one ship and one species. But it was never about us. She turned to face the assembly. It was always about them. She raised her communicator and pressed a button. Throughout the Nexus, throughout Concord space, transmissions began to broadcast. Every species with a history of forced integration received the same message. Archives, recordings, documents, evidence of what had been done to them. The lies they had been told, the cultures that had been erased, the freedoms that had been stolen. And with the evidence came an offer. Alliance with Earth, support for any species that chose to resist, a promise that they would not stand alone. In the assembly chamber, representatives began receiving reports from their homeworlds. Protests were erupting. Governments were demanding answers. Species that had been quiet for centuries were suddenly remembering what they had lost. What have you done? Zoloth demanded. We have given them the truth, Tanaka replied. We have given them a choice. The same choice we gave you. The only difference is, they might actually take it. Zoloth's face twisted with rage. Destroy that ship. Now. The Concord fleet opened fire. Thousands of weapons unleashed their fury at the Prometheus. The space around the human ship turned white with energy, and when the light faded, the Prometheus was still there. Unharmed, untouched. It began to move, not away from the fleet, but through it. Just as it had done with the greeting fleet, it danced between the enemy ships like a ghost. But this time, it was not content to simply evade. It began to fight back. The Prometheus did not fight like any ship the Concord had ever faced. It did not exchange volleys or maneuver for position. It struck with surgical precision, targeting weapons and engines, crippling ships without destroying them. Its weapons turned the enemy's own reactors against them, causing cascading failures that left vessels dead in space, but intact. And it deployed drones, thousands of them, each one small enough to fit through a viewport. They swarmed through the fleet, disabling weapons, jamming communications, protecting escape pods. In less than an hour, half the Concord fleet was disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. The crews were alive. The ships were salvageable, but they could not fight. Vethrai watched from the gallery in stunned amazement. The humans were winning. But more than that, they were winning without killing. They were dismantling the most powerful military force in the galaxy. And they were doing it with mercy. Why? She whispered. Why not destroy them? An aide beside her looked up from his console. Because they are not like us, he said. They are not like anyone. In the center of the assembly station, alarms began to blare. Reports flooded in from across the Concord. The human transmissions had done their work. 12 species had already declared independence. Dozens more were debating it. The foundations of the Empire were cracking, and on his throne, High Arbiter Zoloth watched his world collapse around him. This is not over, he snarled. This is not over. But even as he said it, he knew he was wrong. It was just beginning. The battle continued for 3 more hours. The Concord threw everything they had at the Prometheus. Dreadnoughts, carriers, ancient weapons that had not been used in centuries. Nothing worked. The human ship was everywhere and nowhere. A shadow that could not be caught. A storm that could not be stopped. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the chaos unfold on her tactical display. Her face was calm, but her heart was heavy. She had not wanted this. She had hoped, against all odds, that the Concord would see reason, that they would choose change over destruction. They had not. And now she had to show them what Earth was capable of. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, "Concord flagship is moving to engage. It is the Arbiter's personal command ship." Tanaka studied the display. The flagship was enormous, nearly 5 times the size of the Prometheus. It bristled with weapons and carried a crew of 50,000. It was the symbol of Concord power, the throne from which Zoloth ruled his empire. "Let it come," she said. The flagship approached slowly, its weapons charging. Zoloth was on board, watching the battle from his command center. He had never led a fleet in person before. He had never needed to, but this was different. This was personal. "I will destroy you myself," he broadcast to the Prometheus. "I will watch your ship burn, and then I will watch your world burn. There will be nothing left of your species but ashes." Tanaka did not reply immediately. Instead, she gave an order to her communications officer. "Prepare the boarding sequence." The officer looked at her in surprise. "Admiral, you heard me. We are going to pay the Arbiter a visit." The Prometheus surged forward, closing the distance with the flagship in seconds. The Concord ship opened fire, but the human vessel twisted through the barrage like water flowing around rocks. It came alongside the flagship, so close that the crews could see each other through the viewports. And then something impossible happened. A holographic projection appeared on the flagship's bridge. It was Admiral Tanaka, standing among the Arbiter's crew as if she had always been there. Zoloth stumbled backward in shock. His guards raised their weapons, but there was nothing to shoot at. The figure before them was made of light. "I wanted to speak with you privately," Tanaka said. Her holographic form walked through the bridge, passing through consoles and crew members like a ghost. "I wanted you to understand what is happening. You are on my ship," Zoloth breathed. "How is this possible?" "We have had nanoscale drones in your systems for 6 months," Tanaka explained. "Every ship in your fleet, every station in the Nexus, every government building on every world. We know everything. We see everything. We have been inside your empire since before you sent us that summons." Zoloth's face went pale. "You are lying." "Am I?" Tanaka's hologram stopped in front of him. "Would you like me to tell you what you had for breakfast this morning? Would you like me to recite the secret codes to your personal treasury? Would you like me to explain exactly how your predecessor died?" The Arbiter said nothing. His silence was answer enough. "We did not come here unprepared," Tanaka continued. "We did not come here hoping for the best. We have been planning this for 30 years. We have been watching your empire crumble from the inside for decades, waiting for the right moment to push." She leaned closer, her holographic eyes meeting his. "We could destroy you. Right now, right here. We could end the Concord forever. We could burn your fleets and shatter your stations and leave your empire in ruins. We have the power. We have the capability. We have been holding back." "Why?" Zoloth whispered. "Because that is not who we are." Tanaka stepped back. "We are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We did not build the Prometheus to rule the galaxy. We built it to ensure that no one else would rule the galaxy either, including us." She gestured at the viewports, where the battle continued to rage. "Look at your fleet. Half of it is disabled, but almost no one is dead. We could have killed them all. We chose not to. We could have destroyed your stations and your worlds. We chose not to. We came here with the power of gods, and we used it to disable, not destroy." Zoloth stared at her, confusion mixing with the fear on his face. "I do not understand. If you have this power, why not use it? Why not take what you want?" "Because power without restraint is just tyranny," Tanaka said. "Because victory without mercy is just murder. Because we learned, long ago, that the measure of a civilization is not how much it can destroy, but how much it chooses not to." She turned to face the Arbiter directly. "Humanity has a violent past. We have committed every atrocity imaginable against each other. We have burned cities and murdered millions. We know exactly what we are capable of, and that is precisely why we have worked so hard to become something better." The battle outside was winding down. The Concord fleet was in full retreat, those ships that could still move, fleeing to the edges of the system. The Prometheus had won, and it had won without committing massacre. The war is over, Tanaka said. The Concord as you knew it is finished. But that does not mean everyone has to die. It does not mean the galaxy has to burn. What do you want? Zoloth asked. The same thing I asked for 3 days ago. A new Concord. A true alliance of equals. No more integration. No more subjugation. No more forcing species to give up their identities for the privilege of not being destroyed. She paused. And we want you to step down. Peacefully. Without bloodshed. Let someone else lead. Someone who can guide the transition to a new system. Someone the integrated species will trust. You are asking me to give up everything, Zoloth said. 4,000 years of rule. 10,000 years of tradition. You are asking me to dismantle my own legacy. I am asking you to be remembered as the arbiter who chose peace, Tanaka replied, instead of the arbiter who chose annihilation. The hologram began to fade. You have 1 hour to decide. If you choose war, we will continue until the Concord no longer exists. If you choose peace, we can begin building something better. Together. And then she was gone. Zoloth stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by frightened officers and damaged systems. He looked out the viewport at the Prometheus, still hovering beside his flagship like a patient predator. For 4,000 years, he had ruled through fear. He had crushed rebellions and destroyed civilizations. He had believed, truly believed, that he was doing what was best for the galaxy, that only through unity could chaos be prevented, that only through control could peace be maintained. And now a single ship from a primitive world had shattered everything he believed. He thought about fighting. He still had weapons. He still had loyal soldiers. He could make a last stand, go down in glory, be remembered as a martyr. But then he thought about what Tanaka had said, about power and restraint, about mercy and choice, about the difference between what you could do and what you should do. For the first time in 4,000 years, High Arbiter Zoloth questioned himself. Meanwhile, in the assembly station, Vethrai was not idle. She had been working through the night, gathering representatives from the integrated species, building a coalition. When news of the battle's outcome reached them, she called an emergency session. The Arbiter's fleet is broken, she announced. The humans have proven that the Concord can be defied. Now is the time to act. Dozens of representatives filled the chamber. Species that had not spoken against the Arbiter in centuries were suddenly finding their voices. What do you propose? Asked a delegate from the Kellans. A vote of no confidence, Vethrai said. Under the original Concord Charter, the Assembly can remove an Arbiter who has lost the trust of the member species. It has not been done in 3,000 years. But the mechanism still exists. The Valorians will never allow it. Someone protested. The Valorians are not the only species that matters anymore, Vethrai replied. And many of them are as tired of Zoloth as we are. This is our chance. Perhaps our only chance. Are we going to take it? The vote was called. One by one, representatives cast their decisions. Some voted to support the Arbiter, but they were fewer than anyone expected. Most voted for change. When the final count was announced, the chamber fell silent. For the first time in Concord history, an Arbiter had been removed by democratic action. Vethrai felt tears on her face. She had not cried in 500 years. She had forgotten what it felt like. A new day was dawning, and for the first time since her people were enslaved, she could see the sun. The transition took months. Old systems do not fall apart overnight, and new systems do not build themselves in a day. But slowly, painfully, the Concord began to change. High Arbiter Zoloth surrendered himself to the Assembly 3 days after the battle. He did not fight. He did not rage. He simply walked into the chamber, removed his ceremonial robes, and announced that he was stepping down. Some said he looked relieved. He was not executed. The new leadership, guided by Vethrai and her coalition, decided that enough blood had been spilled. Zoloth was exiled to a distant colony world, where he would live out his remaining years in comfortable isolation, a mercy he had never shown to his enemies. The integration protocols were abolished. Every species that had been absorbed into the Concord was given a choice: remain as equal partners or reclaim their independence. 17 species chose to leave immediately, their governments eager to rebuild what had been lost. The rest stayed, but on new terms. No more guardians, no more masters, just allies. Admiral Tanaka watched it all from the Prometheus, still parked in orbit around the Nexus. She had been offered a place in the new government. She had declined. That was not why she had come. "You should accept," Commander Park said one evening. They were sharing tea in Tanaka's quarters looking out at the stars. "You would be good at it. Leading. Building." Tanaka shook her head. "I am a soldier, not a politician. My job was to open the door. Others will have to walk through it." "You could have been a conqueror," Park observed. "You could have demanded anything. They would have given it to you. And then what?" Tanaka set down her cup. "We rule for a generation, 2 generations, and then we become what they were. Power corrupts. It always does. The only way to prevent it is to not want it in the first place." She looked out at the Nexus, at the countless lights of the stations and ships that made up the heart of galactic civilization. The conquered lasted 10,000 years because everyone believed it was eternal, because everyone believed resistance was impossible. We did not destroy them. We showed them they could destroy themselves. We gave them the choice to be better. And if they had not chosen? Tanaka was quiet for a long moment. Then we would have done what was necessary. But I'm glad it did not come to that. The Prometheus departed for Earth 6 months after the battle. By then, the new Concord was beginning to take shape. A council of equals replaced the arbiter. Representatives were elected rather than appointed. The military was reformed into a mutual defense force rather than a tool of oppression. But before she left, Tanaka made one final stop. Vethrai met her in the same cargo bay where they had first spoken. The counselor looked different now. Younger, somehow, though she had not aged. The weight of centuries seemed to have lifted from her shoulders. "You are leaving," Vethrai said. "Our work here is done," Tanaka replied. "The rest is up to you. Will you come back?" "When we are invited. As friends, not as warriors." Vethrai smiled. "It may take some time. Many still fear you. Many do not understand why you held back. That is all right. Fear fades. Understanding grows. In 100 years, they will tell stories about the humans who could have conquered the galaxy and chose not to. In 1,000 years, they might even believe it." She extended her hand. Vethrai took it. The first physical contact between a human and a member of her species in history. "There is something I have been meaning to ask you," Vethrai said. "Why? Why did Earth do this? Why risk everything for species you had never met?" Tanaka considered the question. "Because we know what it is like to be conquered. We know what it is like to have our cultures erased and our freedoms stolen. We did it to each other for thousands of years. We are still healing from it." She released Vethrai's hand. "When we finally grew wise enough to look at the stars, we swore that we would not let it happen again. Not to us. Not to anyone. The universe is vast and dangerous enough without empires making it worse." "A noble sentiment," Vethrai said. "But do you truly believe you can live up to it?" "No," Tanaka admitted. "We are human. We will make mistakes. We will sometimes be selfish and short-sighted and afraid. But we will try. Every day, we will try to be better than we were the day before. That is all anyone can do." The Prometheus departed the Nexus that evening. Millions watched it go. A single ship against the backdrop of stars. Some watched with fear, remembering the power it had demonstrated. Others watched with hope, remembering the mercy it had shown. As the ship accelerated toward Earth, Tanaka stood on the bridge one last time. Her crew worked around her, preparing for the long journey home. They had come as warriors. They were leaving as something else. Liberators, perhaps. Or maybe just messengers. "Admiral," Park said, approaching her. "We have received a message from the new council. They want to formally thank Earth for its intervention. They are proposing a permanent alliance." "Draft an acceptance," Tanaka said. "But make it clear that we are partners, not patrons. We will not replace one master with another." "Yes, Admiral." Park hesitated. "There is also a personal message. From Counselor Vethrai." Tanaka raised an eyebrow. "She has requested asylum on Earth. She wants to study us, to learn how a species so young became so wise." In her words, Tanaka smiled. It was a genuine smile, the first one in months. "Tell her she is welcome. We have much to learn from each other." The Prometheus jumped to faster than light speed, disappearing from the Nexus system in a flash of distorted space. Behind it, A galaxy began the slow process of healing. Species that had been enemies for millennia were talking to each other. Cultures that had been suppressed were being rediscovered. Freedoms that had been forbidden were being exercised. It would take generations for the scars to fade. It would take centuries for trust to be rebuilt. But for the first time in 10,000 years, there was hope. Earth had sent a battleship to the stars. It had carried weapons that could crack planets and technology that defied understanding. It had faced an empire of 800 worlds and made them tremble. But the true terror of the Prometheus was not its weapons or its shields or its impossible engines. The true terror was what it represented. The idea that power did not have to mean dominion, that strength did not have to mean cruelty, that the mightiest weapon in the universe was the choice not to use it. Admiral Tanaka looked out at the stars streaming past her viewport. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were waking up to a new reality. A universe where they were free to choose their own destinies. That was worth fighting for. That was worth everything. Earth had not sent diplomats to the Concord. They had sent a battleship of terror. But the terror they brought was not destruction or death. It was something far more powerful and far more dangerous. They had brought the terror of hope, and the galaxy would never be the same.